Okay, so does 6:32, I'll call the meeting to order. First, are there any modifications or changes to the agenda?
Yes. Number 4, Franklin Foods. They're coming on the 23rd
Okay. So
of
we
January.
will not talk about this tonight, and it'll be January 23rd.
Yes. I think that's the date of the second meeting.
Good, that shortens it up.
Okay, there we go. Anything else? Okay. Public comment. Is there anybody online? There's nobody in person?
No.
Okay. Excellent. Review and approval of the minutes from December 12th.
Looks good.
Looks good, Sandy? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor and say aye.
Aye.
Those say nay? Okay. Okay. We're skipping item 4. That's been moved to January 23rd. Item number 5, sign approved personnel policy.
So that's not really an item, but we'll see him out here anyway. But you folks, before you can leave, can sign off on the personnel policy that you approved last time. And we'll catch up with Sam.
Okay. Okay. Number 6, budgets and budget breakdown.
So just budgets, because we already decided last meeting we're not changing the breakdown for next year. Packets are in front of you. I'm gonna start from the top and go down. We should go hopefully pretty quickly. General fund, as promised, I ran it with Mrs. Gray Street paving and without Mrs. Gray Street paving. Based upon the tax rate implication, my recommendation as to forego Mrs. Gray Street for 2024, and we can revisit in 2025. That keeps the tax rate a little more in line with what we have been. That does include having $90,000 towards Elm Street, $37,000 towards speed bump, $7,500 for flashing crosswalk, and then we have the new tractor type thing, whatever we decide to go with. We budgeted that amount in there. That also factors in insurance rates are significantly higher, which is behind the general fund budget. There's an example of the changes in our policy this year. One of the biggest changes is the boiler and machinery is separated out this year to make sure that all of our equipment is adequately covered. We did have travelers, engineers on site and did a walkthrough of everything. We're also adding cybersecurity, which is a necessity that we need to have, that we didn't have adequate coverage there. And our workers' comp was about a 25% increase. Auto actually went down a little bit, which was surprising. And the biggest reasoning for our property going up is that the blanket values have increased on a lot of these. So those are the biggest. They did save us a little bit of money with the wastewater pollution policy. They recoded that. The boiler and machinery, we're still evaluating a little bit. So it definitely won't go up. There's a small chance we could get that number down a little bit. We did reach out to leagues of cities and town for an estimate. The price was pretty much the same, but their coverage wasn't quite as good in some areas. It was kind of, all over. So travelers still had the better coverage for pretty much the same amount of money. And there were certain things that leagues of cities and town couldn't quite cover. We'd still be looking at another insurance for the hydros, the pollution policy, and that stuff. So there's some limitations to what leagues of cities and towns could offer us. Other than that, that also does factor in $30,000, the 10% of $30,000 of maintenance for this building as far as the basement and gutters. We're still waiting for more estimates. So again, that number could go down, but right now that's what we have to work with. Any immediate questions on the general fund? We do have, next month dive into them more specifically if you guys want a chance to review them, and then we can hopefully at least get the enterprise funds approved next meeting when everybody's here and had a chance to look at them.
send it next.
Okay. Water budget, you guys have already seen, nothing super drastic. Oh, just pause and go backwards. Sorry, my brain's all over the place. I did send you guys an email, but for this year, we are forecasting high. Was everybody okay with that? Biggest things, personnel costs. We went quite a few months with just 2 versus 3. And then our new employee is not taking health insurance, which is a huge savings for us.
Thank you, State of Vermont.
Everything kind of trickles back to that's where the savings also, we weren't quite there for salt and a couple other things are down, but overall it's personnel related expenses is why we're showing that big of a surplus for 2023.
Yeah, that all made sense.
Okay, it's easily justifiable because of the personnel stuff,
Yep.
but I just want to make sure everybody was good with that.
Yep.
Okay, now we can move forward. Sorry. Water, you guys have already taken a look at. Honestly, nothing drastic has changed except we did need to add in a little more on the labor side of things for the lead inventory. After reviewing the contractor's estimate, it's going to be more fiscally responsible for us to do it in-house, so overtime is going to come into play there. So we did build that into this a little bit, but they are looking to have a pretty hefty surplus as well this year that we can just roll over to cover the deficit for next year, which is pretty much the lead inventory. So in their surplus is maintenance of water lines, knock on wood. There's still a few days left this year, but we haven't had anything drastic as far as I think they had a small repair on Duffy and one on Archibald Street, but nothing.
Everyone drive and walk
Drastic.
lightly.
Yeah. I probably just jinxed us, but so unless you guys have any questions, same thing, the insurance is hitting their wages. Other than that, there's nothing. We level funded a lot of stuff. The copper testing, we have to do annually. That hits next year. Other than that, like I said, there's nothing really jumping out as a drastic change.
Good.
Okay.
So if everybody's comfortable there, we'll
Genius.
go on to wastewater.
Okay.
Honestly, to save myself sounding like a broken record, pretty much everything I just
Okay.
they are projecting a little bit of a deficit again this year, and they're forecasting one for 2023, and we're budgeting one for 2024. I'm not super concerned for the wastewater department. Let's ride it out at that point. The sludge has been higher a little bit this year, so depending on how that goes. And part of this year's is there was some of their capital improvements, like their floors, the driveway ceiling. We took that out of operating. We could transfer money at the end of the year, but their cash flow is very significant that I'm not concerned. We'll definitely monitor it and not run more of a deficit than what we have, but I also don't want to do a huge increase on top of everything else that we have going on. So I think I'm comfortable leaving it with a 4% if you guys are. And yes, we may run a little bit of a deficit, but it's manageable. And then we can evaluate again in 2025.
Okay.
The scary one. Light department. Even with the 11.68%, we are still looking at a significant deficit. Part of that is still playing catch up on some necessary maintenance, especially when it comes to the hydros. We're actually scheduled to do some of the repairs this year due to the storm and all the water. We had to reschedule, so next summer that's going to hit versus this year. We do have a line of credit in place to cover that, but there are some necessary stuff for both hydros that we're looking at. And if you look under the miscellaneous hydraulic power expense with the trash racks, there's an annual inspection of our rake that we haven't been doing that we need to do. We're trying to get better and back on some of these maintenance rotations. In your packet, you'll also have a sheet that's like this. It should be like brown and blue on the top, kind of. That's our VEPSA purchases, or excuse me, yeah, our VEPSA charges. And that's gonna be $265,000 more. Purchase
So,
Well, that's not much.
purchase power, and which is typical with them. So AMI is also factored into this budget, but there is a grant to cover half the cost, and then we'll have to finance the other. So that may hit differently, but I have their estimated amount.
So you have the whole amount in there?
I do, because I don't know how the funding is going to go, if we're going to trickle through the grant first, or if we're going to have to pay up front and then figure it all out later. That hasn't, I don't know, John, if they've talked about that and I've missed it at VEPSA, but
They haven't.
as far as I know, there's been no real discussion on that yet. So I guess call that number in there a placeholder for now. But in reality, that number is going to be partially paid for by grants, and then we're going to finance it. So that also helps the budget, but
I think they actually just physically got the funding. I
yeah,
mean, they just barely got it.
it's been a big holdup with the
So
state.
I want to just make sure I understand it correctly. Like, so you put the whole amount of the AMI in?
Not the whole amount, just what we're expected to for
Okay.
2024.
Thank you.
That
Thank
was-
you. That,
Nope, great question. No, the total project.
oh,
is
that's the
like
210,000 that's,
Yep.
okay, and the whole project is double, triple?
Our
800 and something. But part of it's
Okay.
water too, so
Okay.
I did send John a note today. We do need to take their budget and look at what's hitting which fund and where, but either way, it's all gonna be financed or grant funded, so again, that's kind of a placeholder.
So with the funding though, we would be paying a lot less in the first year because of making payments, right?
Right,
Okay.
once we figure out, like I said, it needs to be a discussion with VEPSA, how this is all gonna work. But until I know, I kinda have to factor in that we have that expense this year, and
Yeah.
then that'll help us at the end of the year.
Yep.
As far as the deficit goes.
Thank you.
We also have the digger truck that's supposed to be coming first quarter too, which we'll be financing. I gotta reach out to the company in the next couple weeks, see if we have a better timeline, cause I don't wanna go out for interest rates until we're within 30 days, so. Trying to figure all that out. Couple other sheets that I threw in there. This one has like the purple and the green on the bottom, right? This is just kind of an FYI. I don't think we've ever really shared the sales with you. This sheet I track off once we do our billing. Under December, the village cycle, that's just an estimate. I just put November's numbers in there because I won't have that until the first part of January. But this is how I gauged our revenue based for the budget, is based on what our sales were this year. Again, Mother Nature kind of dictates a lot of that for us too. In the bottom, the yellow and the blue, and I know it's kind of hard to read, but just for an FYI, that's our purchase power. So 2023 is on the top, 2022 is on the bottom. If it's in red on the top, that means it was more this year than last year. But I just found that interesting to compare when you look at what our total sales are versus what our purchase power is, what we have left over basically for the rest of our expenses. So it's just kind of an FYI to start understanding the whole picture a little bit there, and it helps me kind of look at what our sales are doing. And then the other are just backup sheets from VEPSA, where our purchase power and where I'm pulling all of their numbers from. I know we usually give you guys those to look at. So it is another one of those situations of it looks scary, but there's not a lot that we can really cut out of it because it's all pretty necessary. We do have a little bit more in here for maintenance of 42. They're trying to get their bathroom kind of fixed up. They need a new sink. They don't have hot water working right now.
Well, that's not good.
Toilet up there is to go.
Enough said.
I'll put it that way. We also have the 3 apprentices all have classes this year, so that's an added expense. Postage rates have gone up, unfortunately. That's in there. And again, the insurance is really a big kicker. So, and if you, I know light reading when you go home when you're bored, but if something comes up and you do have a question, let me know. I don't foresee these drastically changing between now and the next meeting. I am poking our insurance company a little bit on the property and the boiler numbers, so that's not 100% set in stone, but I do know that the number I have in here is worst case scenario. So if anything, it'll improve, but that's really, unless I'm missing something, the only thing that I really see changing, and it's not gonna have a huge impact on anything, unfortunately. So,
It is what it is. It's a big house. It takes a lot to run it.
yeah, so that's what I have. Like I said, please feel free if you review it later, have questions, think of something. We'll go over it again next meeting. My goal is next meeting we'll approve the 3 enterprise funds, and then obviously the general fund, you'll approve what we're gonna put forward. So we do have a little bit of time where that could wait until the January 23rd meeting, just as long as I have it by February 1st. But the other 3 I'd like to approve next meeting. Just give Sam a chance to look at everything too. I will email it all to him because those fiscal years start January 1st, so as close to the 1st as we can. Having an approved budget makes me feel better. But unless John has anything to add, that's the gist of what I had.
Good job.
Anybody with any follow-up questions on the budget?
Just need to go and get my magnifying glass.
I can email it to you too, so but yeah, I know to get it all, not 100 pages, it's small, sorry.
I have one that's this big.
Okay.
Yeah, like what Debbie had at the bank there years ago.
Right, yeah.
Microfiche.
Yeah, Abby.
It was kind of like a microfiche, yeah. Could you just use regular paper and make huge.
My grandma always got like 2 or 3 magnifying glasses. You'd wander around the house, you'd find them. Kids would always move them on her.
Okay. We've got a manager's report in here.
We do, quick and simple. So you'd asked, and I can continue down this road, but to see if we can get some more answers. But I did try. I haven't been super successful about school in front of the Parkside. Paving that, or keeping a sidewalk, and getting some suggestions from people that do it every day in their life, like Peter Poshop. So I did email him and a couple other folks I haven't heard back at all because it was
Well, it's the holidays.
holidays and I haven't got a good clear answer back on if they've seen something similar scenario and what they suggest. So I mean, at this point, I'll ask again if we can get a different answer. But
Well, most of the trip factors have been taken care of in terms of walking along it right now. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's not like it's still like this. And,
Right.
you know, we're worried about people killing themselves
I
because
think status quo is okay
I can,
for right now.
other than cars in the way, I can zip through there.
Yeah. Did was I supposed to get you a person's contact to talk about from Local Motion? I know we had kind of mentioned Local Motion.
You were gonna send it to me, and honestly, I forgot to follow up with you to get it.
So I'll just send contacts.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll do that. Okay.
office basement again. Gary had a couple of different folks lined up, and with the storm, the rain and wet, they had postponed. So waiting for them to come look at the basement. So we haven't gotten. We did reach out to 2 more folks for estimates. They have to come look at it and get us an estimate. So they had to postpone. But they'll be here. I think one's coming next week, and I don't know when the other one's coming, but I know one's coming next week. So
Coming tomorrow.
is it tomorrow?
I can't remember. 27th is sticking in my head, but don't hold that to
Maybe
me.
it is tomorrow then. So that's that. And then it was I did get an answer back on this one. Actually, I'm going to email these folks because he did answer it back from the state. And I just asked their opinion on it because someone in the village had asked about that parking spot in front of the library hairdressers.
Oh, okay, Modern Touch. So
Modern
Putting
Touch, yeah.
that as a handicap parking spot. And I mean, from what I understand, the rhyme or reason of how they did this parking spaces when they repaved was in 2016 or something.
Yeah, you're drunk.
There wasn't really anything. It was just they went through and did it, and the
yeah.
state's come back saying the village can do whatever they want. It's the village.
Nice.
Do
So
they have to do anything special sidewalk wise if we make a handicap?
I don't think so because of there is an access right there, but we're gonna verify that. But I believe just because there's an access already for the library, that should be fine.
Cool, that's awesome. I think the librarians will be tickled too,
Yep.
as will the patrons.
So this spring we'll do that. Just take up the lines and repaint them and put a sign up, and we'll line it up when we do all the other lines.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Okay, thank you.
That's all I had at this
Okay,
point.
is there any other business? Well, I can just share some updates on youth center grants. So I got the official word that we can announce that we did receive a $25,000 grant from the United Web.
Super.
It's from spending is from January to June. So it's $25,000 for.
Actually, I have the first check on my desk already.
Oh,
just
wow.
So you know.
Look at that! There, see,
Well,
it's still pretty.
12.5, I think it's.
Yeah, so like about half, yeah.
I noticed the
And
lights were on tonight.
yeah. So so it's just 6 months. They will be starting year-long cycles. I don't know what that looks like, what kind of funding it is, but they were very excited to fund this project.
Great.
Part of that is going to be partnering with local businesses to offer free dinner to youth on Fridays, and cooking classes another day of the weeks, and then we can feed some kids too. So we're hoping some draw with that. We unfortunately though were not successful with the violence prevention grant. That was a big one, $150,000 a year for 2 to 3 years. There were 32 applicants and they could only fund 12.
Oh,
So it was pretty competitive.
Yep.
Unfortunately, because I think it was a solid application. But so that's where we're at. Still looking for more funding, but we've got a good start. So I'm thankful for that. Any other new business? No. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, I will hear a motion to adjourn.
No.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
I
Okay. Meeting is adjourned.